Welcome to episode 90 of Cougs on Cougs. This is Jess. I'm Mary. We're here after a basketball win and a football win. So we're feeling better than we have in past episodes.
Feels great.
It feels wonderful. So we've got a lot of couch coaching to do, but as always, let's start with our notable quotable.
This comes from Steph Curry. He says, "Success is born out of faith, an undying passion, and a relentless drive." So applies to both sports here.
Let's start with basketball couch coaching. We beat Mississippi Valley State 91-61 in the season opener. So first game that counts. It was at the Marriott Center. Long way for the Delta Devils to travel. They were an okay looking team. No, I'm being nice.
Yeah, I think they're one of the worst.
They are
under like Ken Palm and stuff.
They are like maybe the worst.
Yeah, but you know, they're out here. They're playing us. They played Utah yesterday, and I think they play Utah State.
They do. Mm-hmm. But let's start with what went wrong so we can end on what went right. I think we are both pretty glad that it took quite a bit of thinking to come up with what went wrong.
Yeah, for the most part, there's very little to complain about, especially for a season opener like that. So my just little thing was that early in the game, it seemed like we were letting a lot of offensive rebounds go. So just, you know, early when you're playing defense, make sure you're boxing out and going after those boards so they're not getting easy putbacks, which is basically what kept Mississippi Valley State in there in the beginning.
For sure. For me, since I didn't really have a complaint, I went with my go-to, which is free throws. I was hoping that would be another area that I didn't have to complain about, but we were 13 for 22. It's not the worst, but there's always room for improvement there.
Having said that, though, I think Yoli improved on his free throws a lot.
Yeah.
He made a lot of his. So
nice to see that.
That was good.
Okay, what went right? Coach Tyler.
My favorite stat from that night, 20 assists on 33 made baskets, and it comes mainly from all of that ball movement.
Yeah.
Getting it around, getting it to the open guys, selflessness.
Yeah, you tweeted a video of that from your account too, just to see him passing it around.
Yeah, I tweeted one where everybody on the team touched it and we got an open look and knocked it down. So
is that the Heath Schroyer effect maybe? Yeah. What was our magic number for assists last year? I think it was like 18 or 19, so 20. 18. We'll take it.
Yep, for sure.
Me, I liked that it wasn't a one-person effort. I mean, I'm not bagging on Eric Mika, but a lot of the times last year it felt like if Eric Mika's having a good night, then BYU wins. If not, we don't. With this game, I mean, Elijah did have some separation. He had, more points than everyone else. But even considering that, to me, it didn't ever feel like, oh, man, we're living or dying by Elijah. It felt like there was great ball movement. It felt like everyone was contributing. You had 4 Cougars in double digits. It really felt like a cohesive team effort. And I walked away from that game being like, wow, this is a complete team.
Well, and even in the beginning, Yoli, they were really keyed on Yoli, which opened up other guys, and they were able to actually make shots. So it doesn't always have to be about Yoli.
Yoli had 4 different, what did he say? At least 5 of 4 different statistics. 13 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 blocks. And I love that 5 block stat, which was a career high for him.
The team had 11, which I thought was really amazing.
Yeah, and Yoli had, just about half of those, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So, love that team effort. Okay, so there's 1 win down, 1 to go. Let's talk about football. So, BYU versus UNLV down in Vegas at Sam Boyd Stadium, or Lavelle Edwards Stadium South, as Hobo called it on Twitter.
Oh, boy.
So, that was a 31-21 win against a team that had 4 wins. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess they still have 4 wins.
Now.
Yep, 4 and 6. And we had a brand spanking new quarterback. So nice to come out of that one with a win again. I know, seriously. So we will definitely talk a little bit about Joe Critchlow, especially in Talk of the Town. But let's start with what went wrong, Coach Tyler.
So the thing that I thought went wrong for me that was pretty frustrating, especially when UNLV was kind of coming back, was giving up these long passes.
Always after a scoring drive of ours, too. We were like, hey, let's go get a touchdown, and then, hey, let's give up a huge play.
Yeah, what? So they had receivers with long plays, different receivers, long plays of 35 yards, 37 yards, and 50 yards. Different guys. So that was a bit frustrating.
Yeah, and that'll kill momentum. Luckily, we were able to overcome it, but a lot of the time this season we have not been able to, so lesson learned there. With mine, I was just going back looking through the stats, and I think it's funny because last week my what went right was third down efficiency, and we were making progress there, and then I think the team heard me, and they're back to 2 for 10, which is just terrible.
We got a fourth down, though.
We were 1 for 2, so 50% on fourth down. That's great.
Yeah.
But 20% on third down, that will bring our percentage right back down probably to where it was. And going along with that, not only did we fail at third down conversions, we allowed them to get almost 50% third down conversions. So problems on both sides of the ball.
What went right?
Yeah.
Okay, my what went right for this game has to be Joe Critchlow, because I think coming into this, everyone was a little bit nervous, like, what are we going to see? We saw a little bit from him, and he looked decent, so there's some optimism, but I think he kind of blew everyone out of the water. For me, it felt a little bit like watching Tanner Mangum in 2015, just comes in and not overthinking it or anything, just throwing it, making these nice passes, good reads, and it was fun again. So he had 14 of 22 passing for 160 yards, no interceptions, which was different too.
It's a really good night for me. So it kind of goes along with Joe Critchlow being, somewhat reliable in that pass game. Is I love this tweet from who is it? At @tcov_BYU, and he said his hot take was that huge reason the run game is so good is because the throw game is a legit threat. And I read that and I was like, took the words right out of my mouth. So Squally ran for 213 yards, which is one of the better rushing performances that we've had all year, a career high for him. And that doesn't just, I'm not trying to take any credit away from Squally, but that only happens if they have to respect your passing game. And Joe Critchlow came out there and he immediately showed him, you do have to respect my passing game because I'm going to be throwing accurately. I've got a lot of options, which we didn't feel like until this game necessarily.
Sure.
And I really think the pass game opened up, paved the way for Squally to have that kind of a night.
Yeah, and I do think we need to give some credit to the receivers because I think they've taken a lot of flack this year too, and I thought they had a great game, especially Levi-Hifo. I thought he looked really good.
Yeah, and this is a game, there's no shortages of shout-outs to give out on offense. Wide receiver, you have to give love to the offensive line because even if it is a little easier because of the pass game, they were unstoppable. The offensive line was creating holes all night.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Really fun to watch. So we're hoping for a repeat performance here against UMass, but there's coaching from the couch for basketball and football.
We're going to start Talk the Town this week with football, and specifically that UNLV game. So this tweet comes from Robbie Huckvale, and he has a picture of the BYU crowd at the UNLV game and just says, "This is a road game." Which, it's pretty typical of any BYU road game, but when you're 2-8, now 3-8.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive showing for those Las Vegas fans and anyone else who traveled there.
So seriously, shout out to anyone who did. Those stands are not only packed, but it's like all royal blue. Everyone even wore the right color. Like, that's a good fan base right there.
I know. Good work, fans.
Okay, some less good news. So we learned Monday that Beau Hodge is out for the rest of the season, and it is with a toe injury. So we didn't know if it was like his ankle or his leg or whatever, but it turns out it's his big toe. Turns out in the Utah State game where he was playing so well, he injured that big toe and he got a concussion. And shout out to him because he kept trying to come out, a few games after that, every time they would let him. Right. And it just, wasn't going great for him. And so I think now they finally just said,
that's such an annoying injury to have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you want to say, you can play through it, but you can't. So
kind of important.
But I did look it up, though, because I was sad to hear that. He's only a sophomore, so we've got Beau for a few more years, and I feel very comfortable having him on that quarterback depth chart. Just not anymore for the rest of the year. So I think the depth chart now is Joe, obviously, played well enough to secure that spot, and then Cody Wilstead. They still have no hesitation about taking him off a red shirt if they need to. And third is Coy.
Offset that bad news, we got some good news, and this is from Louis Lapuaho, says that he plans on coming back next year and playing. So that was a little up in the air, but he confirmed that on the radio with Ben Criddle that he is planning on coming back.
Yep, lots of speculation. Glad to hear that. He's an anchor on that offensive line, and we will be very glad to have him back. So everyone is making this joke about Gingers taking over BYU, and it's funny and kind of true. So Ben Criddle said, I'm calling it the 2 favorite student athletes of 2017, according to the BYU fan base, will be. He has a picture of Joe Critchlow, and he has a picture of TJ Haws. So those are 2 pretty good picks for early favorites. I think Matt Bushman is... oh, gosh. I think Bushman is a contender for that. What's that runner's name? Rory Link. Yep. You know, they're everywhere.
Good for them. Go Gingers.
Yeah, and Boney had that hilarious tweet
about the
mocking the Trib and saying that BYU is racist. Hilarious. I died.
So good. Speaking of Joe Critchlow, this was my favorite thing to come out of the game because, if you know us, we're huge Harry Potter fans. This is from Taylor Allen, very clever. He says, keep calm because Critchlow is our king, which, if you don't know, is a reference to Ron Weasley and Harry Potter.
Weasley is our king.
Whatever.
So we like the direction they're going with that. Okay, moving on to basketball. It was National Letter of Intent Day, I think, last week. Mm-hmm. And we had Trevenel, who signed his letter of intent. Where is he?
He's in Uruguay. Signed
literally
it from
on his mission.
Mm-hmm. On his mission. So I think he had to wait to officially sign until today, but he left on his mission in July.
That's amazing. So is there a more BYU thing than a kid signing his letter of intent with a missionary name tag on?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And then we also signed Hunter Erickson from Timpview. He's a senior this year, and then he's going to go on a mission, so he won't be around for a couple years. But he did sign, and he's a good player too. They're both guards. Should we tackle the Nick Emery thing?
This is, I think, just what we'll leave it at because it's the best and the only take that there should be.
This is from Quoth the Maven on Twitter. He says, unpopular take. Nick Emery should get our sympathy and support whether you think he deserves it or not. I hope he returns. I hope he succeeds. And I hope shuts a lot of mouths. And I think we both agree with that, too.
We both completely agree with that. The only unfortunate part of that tweet is that it says it's an unpopular take.
It should be a
because it shouldn't be. Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't heard, which I'm sure you all have, Nick will not be playing this year. He has withdrawn from school. He's just taking some time, and
it's good.
It's great.
And hopefully he will come back to BYU better than ever.
Yeah, and shut all the haters up. Goodness. So our last thing from Talk of the Town, we love this tweet we saw from at FansidedU, their fan-sided college. It said, hashtag BYU Cougars Christmas gift guide, 10 Cougars presents. And it's from Lawless Republic. Nate Cunningham wrote this piece, but he compiled a really nice list of 10 really, really nice gifts. I would love to get anything on this list. Some of them are a little pricey. He's got some of those really nice Nike hoodies on there. A custom BYU shirt, but there's a few that are like $10 or under too, like that beanie. There's a little Lego thing of Cosmo.
Socks.
If you're watching the show, you probably have a Cougar fan you need to buy Christmas gifts for, so check it out. We'll link to it.
All right. Coming up, we have, I'd like to call it a big basketball game on Wednesday. It could be a good chance to get a good win.
It is. I think that's fair.
So this is Princeton. We're playing at Princeton this time. 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's on the Ivy League Network. And
if you want to pay $15 a month and get that, then you can.
People on the East Coast are going to be able to watch it a lot easier. But probably going to have to end up listening to Greg and Mark, which we also love too.
Yeah, we do love that. Or you know what, like maybe it'll be like those WWE fights and like maybe someone should subscribe to the Ivy League Network and everyone pay $1, get 15 people. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, do what you got to do, but don't miss that game because it really is one of our bigger games.
I'm excited to see how we match up.
The boys were traveling all day Monday. I saw on Peyton's Snapchat very early in the morning that they were getting on the plane and they didn't get to New Jersey till later. So that's a big road trip, so hopefully they have time to adjust and they're ready for Wednesday. Oh, okay, so football. There's a football game sandwiched in between 2 basketball games. It is that time of year. So we've got UMass coming into town at 1 p.m. on Saturday. That will be at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and it is our last home game. So it is senior day, and they deserve your support. So show up, wear Navy. If you're not around, it will be on BYU TV.
There you go. And then basketball that night at home against UT Arlington. That's at 7:30 at the Marriott Center. UT Arlington destroyed us last year.
It was embarrassing.
If you remember.
And we were the 3 seed and they were the 6 seed. And that was also at the Marriott Center.
Oh, boy. That was the first round of NIT, wasn't it?
It was.
And that was a terrible way to end that season.
It was an awful game.
So, yeah, let's get some revenge. That'll be fun.
Seriously, 2 of our best non-conference games are this week, so it's a big week for BYU basketball. Wear white if you're going to the Marriott Center, as always.
Sponsors this week, want to give a shout out to Coach Detmer Jr., Coach Coy Detmer Jr.
Not the Coach Detmer you're thinking.
No, it was apparently now officially the new quarterbacks coach, according to Ben Criddle.
Is he really? It's so funny. It did look like Joe went straight to him.
It really did, and he actually looks like he knows what he's talking about. He looks intense. He looks involved.
Comfortable in the role.
Yeah, so that's great. Keep it up.
These videos were amazing. And Russell Namfam, go look at his Twitter. He did
funny.
a thread of him explaining. Anyway,
Just
go
check it
see
out.
for yourself. Our second sponsor is Zendaya. So we have this tweet. It's from Kairos Tonga. And he said, "Go Cougs." And he quote tweeted Zendaya with this ridiculous Snapchat filter on her. Who doesn't love that filter? And we cannot tell if it is a BYU or a Yale hat, but guess what we're going to assume?
BYU. Go
Duh.
Cougs.
It's obviously a BYU hat.
Clearly.
So all of the celebrity endorsements, right? May you always stay loyal to the white and blue for Jess. I'm Mary. We'll see you next week.